Thank you. First, just want to say thank you to Brand Innovators for having us here today, and to Nestle for hosting us. Hoping for some chocolate later. Very excited at the potential of that. I'm Sarah Denby. I do brand partnerships on the East Coast for Zynga mobile gaming, and I'm here with Kim from Nestle. Sorry, we're at Nestle. Kim from Colgate. And we're going to talk about how to reach the next generation of consumers, in addition to some fun, innovative products that Colgate has and will have soon. So, Kim, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and your role and provide us with a little bit of background.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kim Curtis. I have been at Colgate for like 16 years now, and randomly my first boss at Colgate is sitting in the audience, so that's kind of fun. Hi, Roger. And in that time, I've worked in various roles within North America, leading our Irish Spring business, Colgate Total, Suavitel, and then worked with our professional business, selling to dentists, and now have been up in global, trying to find ways to make oral care easier and more accessible around the world. So working on a lot of devices, power toothbrushes, whitening, and figuring out how can we get more people to adopt them and overall have a better oral health experience.
Great. So since you are in a global role, on a high level, how are you finding insights and the ability to educate consumers around the world who might have less access to oral health care?
So we've been using a lot of innovative tools, I think, that are much more reactive, and a lot of social listening, understanding what people are saying online, what are the needs that people have. I remember when I first started at Colgate, you had to put something into field for like 6 weeks, and then someone would tabulate the results, and eventually you'd get some answers. And now it's using different quick service platforms to put questions out into the world, get answers overnight, and be able to really make actions. So what we've been doing is a lot of those things versus just testing a final concept, really understanding what the building blocks are of the need, how it might be nuanced around the world, and then how do we create products that really address those needs.
Great. And are there any specific channels that work better globally than perhaps here in the U.S.?
We use a lot of different sources. So media mix analysis, we look at social listening tools, we work with Kantar. So really understanding what people are saying. And we've been doing a lot of work on the consumer journey. So what is it people are doing in their daily activity? How are they purchasing things? And really understanding, now that everything is digital, what are those trigger points to really drive awareness, conversion, purchase, and then in the future, loyalty. So I do also spend a lot of time just reading ratings and reviews. We've been working with Yogi a lot, who actually tabulates those ratings and reviews globally and really can help us understand what people like about different products, as well as what pain points are out there.
Great. And now pivoting a little bit to how we're reaching the next generation of consumers, those Gen Zers, perhaps some millennials. So has there been a shift in the way that you are marketing towards the millennial and Gen Z consumers versus how Colgate has traditionally reached their consumer?
Yeah, so we are using different tools, especially with our new connected health products. So we have a Hum toothbrush and other connected health products. The nice thing about that is inherently the connected health bundles attract more Gen Z millennials that are really proactive about their health. And once they're on the platform, we use it as a way to understand what people like, what they don't like. You can send out a survey to your app users, and I think we get like 3,000 responses overnight. And those are people that are really vested in your brand. They've already purchased, and they're just trying to give their feedback. And I mean, as a consumer, I love telling brands what I wish they would do more and then see it actually come to action. So on the app, for example, we're trying to figure out how to drive stickiness. And one of the pieces of feedback was like more gamification, more points. And so we tested out different ways to do the different points. And people are loving it. I mean, people like Colgate products. They normally use them as their toothpaste. So rewarding people for loyalty is something that's really come through.
Yeah, it's great with Gen Z, as we talked about. They're more likely to try things. So that's a great area and a great audience for you to get that true feedback. And I think gamification is a wonderful idea. More about that later.
We'll talk more.
We'll take that offline. But on the other side, as you said, getting things to be more sticky rather than just a quick trend. And another hard thing with Gen Z is that they like to pave their own way. So how do you work within that to truly get feedback, but without losing who you are as a brand?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of things. We have different sub-brands that really address that more younger audience with different flavors, different textures, different packaging. But also we've been experimenting with new brands. So Hum by Colgate, Co by Colgate are two of the brands that we've launched in the last few years to really address that younger audience. Co is exclusively sold at Ulta. We've spent, I think, a year talking to Gen Z about what kind of packaging they want, what kind of experience, what kind of textures. And it's been a way for us to really try new forms that might have been available online, but really give them a place to live in store, and also a real consumer experience across from the coolest manual toothbrush you've seen all the way to a foaming mouth rinse and other things. So really playing up that experiential piece that the Gen Z audience really wants in a brand that they can own and can be for them.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited about, I want to try that toothbrush myself. In doing back to some focus groups that you mentioned doing outside of some of the crazy outfits you said they showed up in, you had found that they like environmental packaging, which is really a change from the unboxing trend that there used to be. So are you moving away from this as a company? What are you doing as a brand to really address this?
Yeah, so when we were doing focus groups on our next generation whitening product, we were down in Soho in New York, and then everyone was kind of like over the unboxing trend, which is interesting because some markets it still is cueing premiumness and things that are aspirational, but especially with the younger US consumer, they see it as wasteful. And so we've done some big things like introduce the recyclable tube. So for the first time now you can recycle your tube and make it easy, and it was actually something we ended up making open sourced. So instead of keeping it just for ourselves, we actually encouraged our competitors to adopt that same form, gave them the formula so that more people could use it and therefore less tubes in landfills. But we're also looking at how do you do a toothpaste that doesn't need a carton because it's kind of a package in a package. So we're looking at different forms. We have more of that in Europe and are looking at how we could do more of that in the US as well.
That's awesome because I think that change really only happens when everybody's a part of it. So instead of looking at each other as competitors, coming together with one big cause, especially saving the environment, everybody really has to be on board with that. So that's great. In terms of other changing trends within the generation, how are you able to stay on top of this? Is it perhaps through having more focus groups? How are you getting this feedback?
So what we've done is really just, as I said, kind of doing building blocks throughout. Some of it's qualitative, some of it's quantitative. We're introducing a new app experience for whitening, and we got product, really, really early product in people's hands, which probably a few years ago you would have waited longer to get, that kind of consumer testing, and found that, obviously not surprising, the boomers were not excited about our app experience, but the Gen Z and millennials loved it because it gave them more information on how to use it, make sure they were doing it right. So I think it's really understanding that not all things you launch are going to be for everyone, but how do you test and really find a way to really connect with the different audiences in ways that make sense for them. And the other thing that we're doing is really talking to as many people as we can. As I said, ratings and reviews are super important to us to make sure we understand how people are doing. And the last is really understanding what the adoption cycle is. We just launched a powered toothbrush in Mexico and Brazil with Philips, and the market size for electric toothbrush is almost non-existent in those markets. So really understanding who are we going to target, how do we really get them to change a behavior that they do every day and drive that adoption and find those early adopters can really be brand evangelists for us.
Yeah, and it looks different in every region, across every generation, so that's certainly a lot to keep up with as a brand while still staying relevant to the cause.
Exactly.
So that's a great pivot to the innovation piece. So you mentioned the Hum toothbrush. As I said, I'm pretty excited to try that one. I thought that it was really smart because it's taking something as mundane and medicinal as brushing your teeth. It's something we all hopefully do daily without even thinking twice about it, but making it into a fun and experiential moment rather than just something you have to get done during your day. So with that, I have a three-part question. We'll start with the first. What are some of your learnings from this, launching a product using innovation?
I think it's really thinking about the details. So with our hum launch, we were obsessed with every single piece of it, from the colors we chose to the soft touch paint to the unboxing experience to the fact it was a circular box instead of a square box. Like all of these details, we really wanted to make sure that the experience was super seamless, really easy to use. Our goal was to not have people need a 20-page manual to be able to figure out how to use it. So how do you really make that experience seamless? We wanted to go after that Gen Z and millennial consumer, and we wanted to make it a fun, easy way to adopt a new habit. And so that was kind of the big piece, and that went from the product side to the app experience to the gamifications, to the partnerships, to really make it like the best 2 minutes you can if you're going to be brushing your teeth, and how do you leverage that?
Yeah, see, brushing your teeth can be really fun. The second piece of that is, how has this changed your overall marketing strategy?
I think it's all about lifetime value, and how do you build that lifetime value with a consumer. We're lucky that we're a brand that's in the majority of households worldwide, but how do you build that bigger connection with the brand and really become a partner and an ally for them? And so what we did on the hum launch in particular was we did partnerships with Headspace. We did different things to really make the most of that 2 minutes beyond just the idea of brushing your teeth and getting better brushing, which, if you guys want to know, I think the fact that we found out, because we're able to track people with sensors in the brush, most people miss 40% of their mouth. So even though everyone thinks they do a good job, it's one of those things that they may not. So can we be an ally in toothbrushing, but then also extend that to wellness and overall health?
Yeah, and wellness and meditation are huge trends. So I think that takes us back to like staying on trends. And I think it's really smart that you're bringing it full circle, but it still makes total sense.
Exactly. And I think with us in CPG, we used to have a very transactional relationship with our consumer, where you would, get them to buy and then hope that they bought again, but then you don't see them in the meantime. They're using your product and there's no touch points. And I think that's one of the interesting things about connected health and the new way that people communicate with ratings and feedback is you have a more two-way dialogue with your consumer, and it's really valuable to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, and that's the most important feedback you can get, rather than just pulling a bunch of
Exactly, paying people to give you feedback.
Yeah, hear it from the consumers, the people who are actually testing your products. And then the last piece of that is, what are some other things you're doing to elevate the products? You mentioned Headspace. What are some other things you're doing in innovation?
Yeah, so we're working on, whitening, which is something we know everyone wants, whiter teeth, and figuring out ways to bring that to more consumers at a more affordable price, figuring out what those pain points are. Like, it's messy, it's sticky, it takes a long time, and working really closely with our scientists to figure out what we can do to make things faster, easier, more comfortable, more affordable, to get more people to have those benefits. And the same thing with connected health. Like, we recently launched a $20 connected toothbrush at Walmart. So trying to really bring some of these very aspirational kind of high-tech improvement vehicles to more consumers around the world.
Yeah, and you had mentioned when we spoke earlier that you launched a whitening bar in a Target location.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
So we are testing out services, which is a big move for us, and we have 4 Targets in North Carolina right now offering whitening. So make an appointment, come, either do it that day or make an appointment for later. But really meet people where they are. We have dental professionals applying the treatment and be able to get their feedback right away, but also really leveraging people who might not want to go to their dentist or do white strips or something, but get them while they're in the store, and in 30 minutes they have whiter teeth and they go about their day. So really trying different business models and different ways to bring services to consumers.
And it's not as expensive as it might be through some other ways.
Exactly. So at a more
reasonable
and attainable price, and also leveraging the fact that you're already in store, you might have a few extra minutes, and how do you really drive people to show results just as they're leaving? So.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who, my joke is always that I won't be happy till my teeth are glowing in the dark,
I know.
like Ross Geller on Friends.
I feel like she might be my best tooth model I've ever seen.
I did buy the whitening pen before this conversation, and I have been trying it, so true, tried, tested, I recommend. But I think it's great to have these opportunities to be able to have it more attainable as a consumer, where it doesn't feel like it's this big, expensive thing you have to buy or a big, expensive, time-consuming process. It's just easy. You can pop into a Target for 30 minutes.
Exactly.
And then you also mentioned there's a virtual try-on.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we've been realizing is people are always curious, like, will this work for me? Does it really work? And even if people see a million ads on TV or before and after pictures, you want to be able to try it on yourself. And so one of the things we've done in our Whitening Hub is partner with a company called Perfect Corp, who does a lot of the makeup try-ons and other things and lets you actually try on a whiter smile. So if you're at shelf or if you're at your computer and thinking about buying something on Amazon, let people take a quick picture, see what the before and afters will look like, and give them some confidence of what this will do once they actually try it for real. So trying to find different ways to engage and get people to purchase versus these really long purchase journeys, which we know now are like 10 plus steps before they make a purchase.
Yeah, and it's important to see the before and after in real time, which brings me to our next topic, maintaining credibility. Efficacy and being true to science are some pillars to Colgate. So how can you compete with credibility in the market when there are bad actors that are creating a lack of believability?
Exactly. So I think that's one of the things that we have to really emphasize the science. I'm always shocked by how much clinicals and scientific results go into any product that is made. And I think it's really communicating that in a way that's understandable and also not worrying as much when we see bad actors and really staying true to who we are and make sure that we're driving the credibility based on our products and really just leverage our brand and kind of who we are as a company to go forward and try not to be too distracted by everyone else out there.
Yeah, and maintaining and building that trust in consumers is the most important thing you can do as a brand,
Exactly.
if I'm not wrong. Lastly, and I know we still have a few minutes, but I thought it was really important based on reaching the next generation of consumers to ask you, what is your favorite trend right now?
I think probably one is this whole idea of reconnecting after the pandemic, trying to understand what it is that people want to do. So I've seen a lot of trends with much more in person. So I think that's fun now that we're finally emerging. And I was at a happy hour the other day where someone was talking about using a virtual assistant to outsource some of the chores in their life, which I started Googling because that sounds really appealing if someone else wants to organize some parts of it. So I was looking into that, and I think I might be trying one of them soon.
Yeah, as someone who's always running around, according to my mom, I think I would be looking into that as well. So thank you for the tip. To quickly share my favorite trend, I don't know if it's a trend, but the corn kid really has my heart these days. I don't know if anyone else is into it's corn. There's an update. He has retired, if anyone's interested in where he is today. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
He still likes corn, though.
He still loves corn. Just Google him. He's adorable. It will be a bright spot in your day, outside of the whitening pen, of course. But thank you so much, Kim. I've learned a lot, and I'm really excited to see what's to come from Colgate.
Thank you.
Really want to do karaoke.
All right, yeah, we have a few minutes for questions. I've learned a lot. I'm disturbed by the 40%.
Yes.
And rethinking exactly all of my teeth brushing activity at this point forward, as well as for my children, because 40% is shocking to me. Questions? We've got a few minutes.
Hi, Kim. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to Nestle. Thanks for being here. My name is Jackie Jimenez. I work in marketing here at Nestle and Beverages. So I guess what I'm curious about is, so Kim, question for you. being a global leader in the dental hygiene industry, and as we talked about, you would hope, I mean, we would think it's very high penetration category, right? And everyone brushes their teeth at least 2 or 3 times a day. I'm curious to hear about like what keeps you at night, right? Like what do you think what is the biggest threat or perhaps the opportunity for this industry that then you use as fuel to actually feed into your innovation pipeline?
I think as the most penetrated brand in the category, it is always scary that something will completely disrupt it. And I think we've seen that across industries with all of the upstarts in beauty, you know, the Kylie Jenners and all those things. I think moving to digital really opens up the shelf. So I think it's really making sure we drive products that people truly love, so we earn the right to be at their sink and really earn the right to be purchased. And I think that's something that we really pride ourselves in, is that we are the most chosen toothpaste in the world, but that doesn't mean we will always be. And I think as you look at new generations and new needs, you have to make sure you continue to evolve and really deliver the benefits that people are looking for.
Great. Questions? Any more questions? Justin, that's you.
Thanks, Justin. Hey there. What's a strategy to compete with other private label brands that are just as good, like a Kirkland Signature or other products like that?
In oral care, private label is a little bit less. So we see in our toothbrush business a lot more. And once again, I think it's just delivering new benefits that they may not. We have tons of R&D and kind of science behind what we're bringing and try to stay ahead of it. But I think luckily so far with toothpaste, private label is still relatively small given how big the 2 main brands and 3 main brands are. So comparatively, we're more worried about what the other players that are competitors do rather than as much on private label in this category.
Thank you.
Hi, Daniel Davidson with CXCOE/CMI. Not sure where I work. Innovation is a function that's sort of fraught with lots of failure. If there's 10 ideas, 9 will fail, and then 1 actually makes it, and that's probably even being a little generous. So how do you defend that against sort of the rest of the company or shareholders or whatever that are, saying that there is all this failure? How do you create space for innovation and sort of defend the money that goes into it?
I think it's something that's always evolving, but really focusing on understanding if people truly love the product early on, I think is one way to sort of manage behind it, and not rushing things just to hit a planogram date, but really trying to make sure you're delivering on the benefit that people are looking for. I think the more insights you can gather early and then more iterative product testing, I think the new agile models of getting prototypes in people's hands and getting feedback helps alleviate some of it. That said, there's always going to be products that are not destined for market. And I think the biggest thing as a marketer, even if it is something you've been working on for a year or more, is let things go when they don't think that they'll make it to market. If you're getting bad feedback from the buyers or consumers are raising a red flag, it's not in anyone's best interest to push it forward. And I think understanding that and being open to that feedback is probably one of the hardest things, especially when you've worked on something for such a long time and you're excited about where it's going, but it's just not living up to what people want for some reason or another. So I think communicating that through the organization and getting alignment, but also not pushing your pet project just because it's your pet project is sometimes one of the things you have to keep in mind too.
I love that term, Kim. I'm stealing it. Not destined, not destined for market. So such a nice letdown for somebody.
You're like, it looks pretty on your
It
desk.
just wasn't destined for market. Sorry.
It can live on your desk. It might not live on the shelf.
Hello, Alexis from Consumer Insights. I was wondering, we know consumers don't really love when you pit brands against each other, especially from a claims perspective. So I was wondering, with outsourcing your tubes and helping your competitors, was there any sort of consumer response or acknowledgement that you were doing that?
Yeah, I think we've gotten positive feedback both from the industry as well as from consumers. I think the whole idea of a recyclable tube is just it's a big item of waste out there. And so I think what we did was really make sure that it could be adopted more broadly so that people could limit what's going into landfills. And I think it was seen as a positive just because normally we're so worried about us versus them and making that change. I think it helped show that there's a wider group of us that are really just looking to improve the environment and figure out a way to do that, which I thought was, what we've seen is really kind of positive feedback and trying to bring true change across the industry, not just for 1/3 of the industry, which is the part that we work in.
One more question. Thought somebody back here had one. No? All right. Thank you, Kim, Sarah.
Thank you.